Guarda. Allora possiamo iniziare? So, good afternoon to everyone. In this side event, we present the activities of the Agrifood cluster, the national technological cluster Agrifood, with the three main objectives. The first one is to present the cluster position and the priorities on issues related to nutrition and health, with particular reference to the Mediterranean diet and the sustainability of the Italian agri-food model. The second objective is to listen to what research is doing to enhance and innovative the made products respecting environmental protecting traditional values. And the last one is to listen the companies to understand how they are facing the challenges of the pandemic, the consequences of the conflict. So the side event is organized with a first presentation about the cluster activities, and then we have the contribution of the Vice President of the Technical Scientific Committee, Patrizia Brigidi, the member of the Technical Scientific Committee, Antonio Logrieco, and at the end, the contribution of the chair of Copa-Cogeca Research Innovation Working Group, delegate of Confagricoltura, Daniele Rossi. My name is Massimo Iannetta. I'm the chair of the Scientific and Technical Committee of Cluster Agri-Food. So, this is the presentation of the cluster. Can I have the possibility to change the slide? Yes. Oh, is this? Okay. So the National Technology Cluster is an industry-led and multi-stakeholder association, and was founded in 2013. And it put together the key national players of the agri-food chain, so the companies, association, research organization, university, local administration, and regions, so the territory. So we have three group of categories. The first is industry, the second one is research, and then the territory. Since 2018, the cluster is a legal recognized entity, and since 2019 is officially recognized by Ministry of Education, Research, University and Research. So the mission of the cluster is aggregation and coordination of all the stakeholders of the agri-food sector, the integration between regional, national, and European Union policies on the topic of research and innovation linked to the agri-food sector, advisory to policymakers to identify priority, the establishment of an ad hoc partnership for the development of industrial research projects, the internationalization, and the dissemination and communication. So the vision of the cluster is to promote the Italian agri-food systems, and so to base the research innovation in the framework of open innovation with the small and medium enterprises to improve competitiveness. And we want to improve the conversation among research centers, regions, companies, and to create synergies, improve made in Italy agri-food sector excellence, by means of networks, and also a mindset to create added value based on this interaction. So the governance of the cluster is based on an assembly, a board, a technical and scientific committee, and the presidency with a region body and auditor. We have more than 100 members divided in 3 categories. So the first one is on territory, 14 members, industry 44, and research members that are 55. And this is the distribution of territorial aggregation at the national level, the presence in 16 regions, and so the necessary to improve this participation at the local level. These are the companies. They are a big company, but also small and medium enterprises, and the research organization that are distributed at regional and national level with all the universities. So the cluster is also a member of the National Committee on Biosecurity, Biotechnologies, and Life Sciences, and in some working group on the National Coordination on Bioeconomy, and the working group on macrobiome. Is a member of the Italian Circular Economy Stakeholder Platform. In this platform, there is a subgroup that focused on agri-food and education. And there is also a national technology cluster network with all the clusters that are 12 at the national level. We have participated to the master on bioeconomy in the circular economy, BioCirce, the first European master in bioeconomy in the circular economy. And also we are in the techno-scientific committee of the World Food Research Innovation Forum, and in the techno-scientific committee of Ecomondo. Sorry. The cluster is also involved in the network as a network member of the Agrifood, and its partner of the European Technological Platform Food for Life, is a member of the horizontal national working group of Cluster 6 on food, bioeconomy, natural resources, agriculture, and environment of Horizon Europe. Follows the smart specialization strategies on agri-food platform, in particular on smart food traceability and big data, and on high technology farming. Follows the activity of Metro Food research infrastructure at the European level, and of PRIMA, the Partnership for Research Innovation in the Mediterranean area, and participates also to international missions like in China, India, and Mexico. So this is the 3-action plan of cluster with the 4 priorities. The first 3 priorities are vertical on sustainability, on quality and food safety and security, and the third one is on nutrition and health. And then we have a horizontal priority, Agri-Food Smart, that put together communication, the improvement of rules, digitalization, and the competencies. And so all these aspects are related to different aspects in the framework of different priorities. And this is the roadmap of the cluster. That is the result of the work that involved university, research institution, companies, regional representatives, training organization, and trade association that work together to share strategic vision of technological scenarios of the agri-food industry. And so why participate to the agri-food cluster? Because it's a network, and so it's important for the partnership, for the initiative, for the pilot project with the other stakeholders, and to extend your network, because the focus of the cluster is the innovation. And so we keep up with the difficulties in the agri-food system through a large network of specialized and institutional relationships, and because our strategies is to contribute to more effective steering of regional, national, and the European research innovation agenda. So I'd like to thank so much all the partner of the cluster Agrifood, and also the speakers of this side event that are involved in these activities more than 10 years. And in particular, it's a pleasure for me to give the floor to Patrizia Brigidi, that is the Vice President of the Technical Scientific Committee from the University of Bologna. Please, Patrizia.
Good evening, everybody. Can you hear me? Okay, so thank you, Massimo, for the nice presentation, and thank you for the opportunity this event gave us to present our activity focused on, I try to share my presentation. Can you see my presentation? Can you see?
Yes, yes, Patrizia.
Okay. I don't know where is, okay, I can do this in this way. Okay, so as previously presented by our, it doesn't work, I'm sorry. Wait, I'm trying to, oh my God. Okay. Okay. As previously presented, said by our chair, Dr. Iannetta, we discussed this roadmap, which is a representative of the three major priorities identified by the cluster after fruitful discussion among the partners, keeping particularly, I am referring to the scientific partner, the industrial partner, and the territories. And among these three priorities, one is just focused on the agri-food healthy. The major goals of this trajectory are the following ones. One is the identification and characterization of bioactive compounds, which have specific activities such as an antioxidant, an anti-inflammatory, and anti-hypertensive activity, which are widely represented in our Mediterranean diet products. And in this framework, we are also very interested in studying new sources of protein, which we know represent an important composition of our dietary behavior in order to improve the nutritional value of the new innovative foods. The second goal is the production of food, which is mainly focused on the development of products containing nutraceuticals. And when I say nutraceuticals, we are once again referring to this natural component of our Mediterranean diet. And the main goal is to develop new products which could have a specific health claim and nutritional claims, of course, in complying all the safety legislation and guidelines. Another point of interest is the development of calibrated new products, new food products, in order to satisfy the nutritional need, the specific nutritional needs of subgroups of a population, referring, for example, to elderly or pregnant women, and so on, or even a group of population which suffer of specific disorders, particularly metabolic disorder and food intolerance. And in this perspective, for sure, a great interest is focalized on the use of microbial fermentation, because as we will see shortly, they could represent an important industrial approach in order to improve the healthy profile and the nutritional profile of foods. The third, last but not least, objective of this agri-food healthy priority is mainly related to the study between the onset and the progression of specific diet-related diseases such as diabetes, metabolic syndrome, obesity, and so on, with diet. Many papers have been published on this topic, but we need to exploit the most recent omics technologies in order to reach a more improved knowledge about the diet and health correlation. And of course, this first step supports the development of new foods, new dietary approaches in order to counteract this diet-related disease as well as malnutrition in both over and under food consumption, and taking into account the potential role of the gut microbiome, of the intestinal microbiome. And this priority has been organized in 4 main technological trajectories. The first one is mainly devoted to the development of a new formulation and innovative processes for the development of food products which need to have a improved nutritional profile. The second one is mainly focused on the innovative approaches for the individuation, for the characterization of the new bioactive compounds present in foods. The third one is the development of customized, proxy personalized new foods intended for the specific subgroups of consumers. And the last is the so-called customized fermentation processes for the production of functional food characterized by specific specific activities. Going deeper in each of these trajectory, I would like to show you the main activity of each of these trajectory. The first one, which was focused on formulation, a new formulation and processes, is mainly devoted to study the enhancement of the biodiversity of the agri-food products intended for multiple recipients. So we are interested in food, but even in the development of nutraceuticals, pharmaceuticals, and cosmetics. Strong is the need of innovation through environmental sustainability of a process used for the development of these innovative products, and in particular the need of new technologies for the stabilization of this bioactive compound. Concerning the interest focused on the development of alternative protein sources, the activity, the research activity is very intense, and it is always necessary to perform a comparative analysis between the new proposed protein sources versus the traditional one. And last, the development of food which need to be enriched with specific nutraceutical compounds in order to obtain a product able to prevent the metabolic disorders. The trajectory which is mainly focused on the characterization of the new bioactive compound, foresees these 5 main activities. The first one is the development of these nutraceuticals, this bioactive compound, keeping in mind some critical points which are mainly related to their standardization, which is a critical point for this type of new compounds, but also the need that these nutraceutical need to be compliant, economically and sustainable in order to be used in different recipes. We are also interested in the use of these unconventional vegetable matrices and the use of byproducts, waste derived from the agri-food value chain for a valorization in terms of bioeconomy as a priority, particularly in this specific period. And third activity is the characterization of functional proteins which are present, which are naturally present in different matrices, mainly vegetable matrices, in which we can exploit the antioxidant, anti-inflammatory, anti-hypertensive activities of this compound. And another point raising the attention of the cluster is the study of the gut microbiome and the specific food ingredients of our diet in order to counteract the onset and progression of metabolic disorder. And one last but not the least, also in this case, the use of the new use of functional and bioactive molecules in order to obtain edible coatings which are able to preserve the quality of food, but also to sustain, to improve the shelf life. The main activities of the third trajectory, which is focused on the customized new foods, concern the study to improve the bioaccessibility, bioavailability of the functional molecules for specific target of consumer, the selection of biofortified plants in order to obtain a vegetable product which is particularly enriched in compound which can prevent, for example, the onset of some pathology, but also in order to obtain hypoallergenic varieties. Of course, it is important to produce, as we mentioned before, the new food able to satisfy the needs of a specific target of population, to develop food which are characterized by a calibrated nutritional profile in terms of protein, lipid, salt, but also the potential negative FODMAPs, and finally the development of a food for newborn and infants, since we know the relevant role of this of the nutrition, particularly in this initial time of our life, in order to prevent the onset of nutritional deficiency and allergic disorders. The last trajectory is the fermentation, the customized fermentation process for the production of functional food, in which several activities have been foreseen. The first one is to use selected microorganisms able to produce functional molecules, and these microorganisms can be used at industrial level in biotransformation process in order to enrich the fermented food with this specific functional molecule. But strong is the study, the research, in order to identify microorganisms able to degrade anti-nutritional compounds present in food, potentially present in food matrices, in order to reduce the intolerances and the onset of intestinal syndromes. Fermentation can be also used for the recovery of, for the treatment of bioproducts, in order to produce new food or, for example, new pharmaceutical preparation. And in this framework, since the huge possibility to exploit fermentation, one of the critical points is the scale up of this type of process to the industrial level. And another point raised particularly from some companies, from the dairy companies, is the need to develop new generation probiotics. We mean probiotics selected on the basis of some specific activities, so to be performed once again in targeted food. I hope that you had an overview, a general overview of our of the activity of our cluster focused on the healthy nutrition, and we are more than willing to collaborate with all of you. Thank you very much for your attention.
Thanks, Patrizia, for your very interesting presentation on the third priority of our cluster. That is strictly linked with the topic of this conference. Now, we'd like to show you some results about the activities that the cluster is doing in the last years, and these linked to the technological trends shared between the companies, the research organization, and the territory. And so for this reason, I asked to Antonio Lovrieco to introduce this topic, and Antonio worked as a member of the working group for the position paper on the technological trends. Please, Antonio.
very much, Massimo, for your nice introduction. I'd like to highlight the tremendous efforts that we spent during this cluster in order to facilitate the brainstorming with different players, with the enterprise stakeholders, research. As Massimo showed, there's a great plethora of players that play important goals in terms of to reach specific position topics. So I'd like to introduce this cluster Agri-Food, Mediterranean diet, research and business facing sustainability. So during this brainstorming, so with the industry, with the science and different players, we focused our attention on these 4 different trends. First of all, the decarbonization of agri-food systems. Second one is traceability of agri-food products, logistic, physical, and digital platform. Then it is important trends made in Italy and One Health. And finally, enhancement of foods byproducts and the waste reduction. So this is for the first one, I'd like just to emphasize that the goals are different, but important goals is to make the agri-food sector more sustainable and by improvement of approaches and through efficient use of resources. So this is use and the reuse of resources. And the main strategies to reach this goal is to develop innovative technology, of course, according with the research activity, and in order to minimize the impact of CO2 in the global level, particularly from greenhouse gas emission. Reduce of waste, and also important to communicate. The communication is towards consumer in order to adapt a more sustainable diet. The second trend is traceability of agri-food products, logistic, physical, and digital platform, with the main goals to, of course, to improve in performance through advanced control of supply chains in terms of quality and safety. That is very important key point, because there is a lot of needs by industry, by stakeholders to get more information about terms of quality and safety and the respective regulation at the European level. Then how we can reach these strategies? Of course, in order the big data and how to manage all these big data, because these big data coming from different sources. And then it is important to handle, to harmonize, to facilitate the use of this big data by using also application of artificial intelligence, new sensors, and also optimize the logistic transportation of the products to facilitate the trend. And then finally, monitoring of quality, safety, and shelf life of food. This is with particularly by new technology. So these new trends, new tools in order to monitor these key aspects of quality and safety of food. The third point is made in Italy and One Health. So this is the main goal is to introduce innovation with all production phases of Italian agri-food that create added value, promoting natural, cultural landscape resources with relation with also health aspect, health sector. So with nutrition, food, nutrition, and health. This is the 3 important key aspects. Then main strategy to reach this trend is to adopt more sustainable practices in agri-food sectors, of course, new genetic technology. This is also very important strategies. And we have in Italy, we have a really great background about all this genetic approach. And then increase attention to nutritional aspect in agri-food products, and particularly concerning the Mediterranean diet. And finally, the last trend is the enhancement of food byproducts and the waste reduction. So in this case, with the increased efficiency of naturalization process and regulation. So this is really crucial and critical aspect we have to take in account, because many times the authorization is not easy to obtain, and then also the regulation are different region by region, but also nation by nation. So this we need to harmonize this regulation aspect. And then, of course, to promote the reuse of a byproduct, recycling, and recovery of waste. And so this is a very important, challenging aspect that we have to take into account. And how can which strategies? Promotion of process technology capable of minimizing waste and maintaining supply chain control over byproducts in order to their reuse. And then for production, of course, this waste reuse in order to facilitate the reuse of this waste for zootechnical aims, zootechnical feeds. Like, for example, insect. This is one of the main challenges of novel foods or novel feeds, by using waste in order to feeding the insect and then to transform the innovative protein for animal consumption. And then also for innovative bioactive compounds. There is a large and vast example of new bioactive compounds for using in for example in agri-food sectors, for in order to for pesticides use, for example, in order to reducing the pesticide use in chemical compounds in agri-food sector. So this is a new challenging natural by using innovative and natural bioactive compounds. And then, so in order to generate the industry and the agri-food sector. So this is are the main trends that we discussed during our brainstorming, and then, so of course, with participation of the so much important industry, so we can, of course, we can use all these position paper in different contests for new proposal, project at national, European level, in order just to reach these different goals. So this, I think, is I finish my attention, and thanks for your attention.
Thanks so much, Antonio. I'd like to underline that all these very hard work with all the entities that represents the cluster is related to the resources and to the program of the Italian Recovery and Resilience Plan. So thanks to this work, there is a very strong participation of all these actors in this program, in this project that are starting now in this period. So thanks, Antonio. And now the floor to Daniele Rossi, just to understand how the farms are facing the challenges of the pandemic consequence of the conflict. Please, Daniele.
Thank you very much. I try to share my slides. But how to do is not so easy. Wait a minute. Did you see it? No. Sorry.
Daniele, if you want, we can.
The best is up to you. It's up to you. If your technician helps me in putting the slide. Yes, thank you very much. Yes. Okay. Thank you very much.
But you can see the slide.
Is it possible now? I see, fantastic. Yes, it's perfect. It's okay. May I start? Is it possible to start?
Yes, you can.
Thank you.
We see the slide.
Yeah, thank you very much. Just to give you some ideas about what we are challenging at the European level, you know that I'm the chairman of Copa-Cogeca Research Innovation.
Can
Please, Massimo.
Okay. The volume is low.
Volume is low.
Okay, no, it's good. Now it's good. Okay.
So sorry. Just to give an example, what we are challenging at the European level, I'm representing the farmers and the agro cooperatives in Europe. And as you may know, we are also very active in the, as Massimo Iannetta said before, in the cluster, the national platforms, in particular in the Italian ones. Food sector, you may see, is under pressure. It's a list, incredible list of critical points, and the effect are, as Patrizia said, on health, sustainability, and accessibility, etc., etc. Next one. You know that the food and beverage, the food sector is the first one in Europe because of the democratic spray out of all companies and farmers in all the lands. You may find a small farmer and a small company, food industry company, from Portugal to Turkey, from the Lapland to Crete. Go ahead. Thank you. And numbers are still incredible because we represent more or less in Europe, in Copa-Cogeca and Food Drink Europe, we represent more or less 3 trillion of euro with 21 millions of employees. And this is the list of the different categories. The food industry is representing more or less half of the total turnover in Europe. Please go ahead. Copa-Cogeca, my organization, is an organization based on Brussels with 27 countries and a lot of observers. Please go ahead. Just to give an example, with the working parties and a presidium with a French lady who is the chairman and a guy from Spain who is the chairman of the agro cooperatives. Go ahead. Also, Food Drink Europe is a very important organization representing the food federations and is very important for Food Drink Europe because the Food Federation built in the past, as in Italy, Federalimentare, the national clustering, national platforms. Just to give a few very quick example of what happens in the last year, COVID had an impact, a very strong impact on the food and drink industry, but as you may see, more and more in other sectors like the HoReCa and the retailing ones. SDGs are still there, but as you may know, after the war and the pandemic, we try to postpone, and it's a critical point, to postpone SDGs because of emergencies on energy and emergencies on raw materials. Go ahead. We try to find also, there are not only conflicts in raw materials, but there are also conflicts in the use of the land. It's another big debate in Europe if we have to use the land for renewable energies, in particular photovoltaic and aeolic, and the conflict try to be solved by the cascade principle, as you Massimo knows very well, food first and fuel last. And this also is under pressure after the pandemic and the Ukrainian war. Go ahead. All the nations in Europe, all the member states in Europe are very active in food and drink in agri-food industry. You may see you are, the sector is the first, the second, the third in all the European countries. Go ahead. The consumer trends are still very, very important because we believe that demand pull is more important than technology push in our sector. But you may see pleasure is still the first driver of innovation in Europe. So the rational point, health, convenience, environment, are still less important than pleasure. So taste of food and conviviality is still very, very important. But you may see health, conveniences, in particular health, is increasing day by day. It means the nutritional facts. Go ahead. Also, sustainability, the position of industry is very, very important. We try to change completely our mind and start to put sustainability as the core business of our activities, and because of the trends, but not also because, as in the past, food safety was a prerequisite of the reputation of the company, on the standard of a company. Now, environmental sustainability it begins to be a prerequisite of the core business of the company. Please go ahead. We made in Europe a list of our clusters, of priorities of our cluster. This is a very easy list, as you may see. One very, very important part of this list is that we try to be more sustainable, also downgrading, not upgrading, but downgrading processing and tech transfer, and to have more and more local, shorter food chains. Go ahead. This is the list of the, not the 12, but the 36 national technology platforms. Go ahead. These are the future trends. Now, please go ahead. These are the challenges that we face, and the answer we will give to this kind of challenges. The answer are not enough. That's the problem. The small and medium-sized companies, the small farmers, sometimes have no means, no tools, no culture, not enough training to answer these very strong challenges all over Europe and the world. Please go ahead. One answer is also given by the European Commission with Food 2030. It's a good momentum to change the food systems, to help to change the food system. Go ahead. With a very strong relationship with the private sector. The cluster is a very good example of how the partnership between the research agencies, territories, authorities, and the private sector is doing. Go ahead. Horizon Europe is a very strong tool to enforce, to relaunch research, food research, agri-food research in Europe, as we know very well, also in Bari, with also Prima, another EIT, and other tools we have to give strong partnerships between research agencies and universities and the private sector. Go ahead. And these are the list, very important lists that we try to build in Europe on the farmers' priorities, farmers' agri-cooperative priorities. And you may see there are 2 points that I want to stress now. One is the farmers learning by farmers. It means a very important role of the most innovative farmers to the other farmers. There's a snowball effect on that. And then you may see the green growth sustainability part is stronger and stronger to mitigate, to adapt to the climate change, all our food system. And last but not least, in healthy farming, we may see not only to help the animal welfare and biosecurity, but also the strong support we will give to the MBTs and NGTs in the future. Go ahead. So that's the point I want to stress. The cluster activity in Italy is very, very important also because it's a protagonist, as Patrizia Antonio and Massimo knows very well, is a protagonist of the European strong framework network, and I hope that in the future private and public partnership will grow more and more than in the past. Thank you very much.
Thanks so much, Daniele. So if I can summarize your speech, and also which is the aim of our cluster is to put together possibly in a space, but of course it's not easy, in a network, in a mindset, all the component that is important for innovation. So education, research, knowledge transfer in an open innovation ecosystem. So our aim is to compare skills, experience, to overcome the limits of current models, and provide concrete guidance to improve the cooperation between research and enterprises in the agri-food systems. So I think that we can close here this side event. I don't know if there is some question for the speakers, but if not, we can close here. I thank so much the speakers, the cluster, and the organizer of the side event, and all of you. Thanks so much.
Thank you much, Massimo. Thank you to our colleagues.